Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to make an ice-dyed mandala shirt. I prepped the shirt like normal and I have it turned inside out. Initially I went ahead and centered the shirt like I was going to put the mandala on both the front and the back, but then I decided I only wanted the mandala on the front of the shirt, so I just pulled the front or isolated the front of the shirt out. So what you see on my table is just the center of the front of the shirt, and the back of the shirt is what's laying behind. I don't want to put the mandala right in the center of the shirt. I want it to be a little bit above the middle point. So I'm going to fold the hem of the shirt up toward the top of the shirt and use a washable marker to mark where the middle of the shirt is. Then I'm also going to use the washable marker and make a mark a little bit above that where I'd like the center of my mandala to be. So to begin folding the mandala, I'm going to take the bottom hem of the shirt and fold it up to that line. Then take the top portion or the neck of the shirt and fold it down to that line, kind of like I was starting a paper airplane. Then pinching that middle seam, I'm going to lift the shirt up off of the table and fold it in half. Now I'm going to grab each side and fold it toward the center again. Now I'm going to use my washable marker and make a mark where I don't want the mandala to extend beyond. This will kind of give me a guide as I'm tying up the shirt, not to make my mandala too large. It's a little easier with this design because you can already see the seam of the sleeve, and that will keep me from extending it beyond that area anyway. Okay, so I sped this small area of tying the mandala up because I didn't end up using this area and I wanted to make the video shorter. But I wanted to go ahead and leave it in because I wanted to show you that sometimes it's kind of difficult to get stuff to work the way you want it to in tie-dye. And to just encourage you to go ahead and just keep trying until you finally get it. I tried to tie a small portion at the very end of the mandala and it kept coming untied. Then I tried to do a diagonal line going one direction and I never could get it the way I was happy with it. So I just went ahead and tied the diagonal line going the other direction, and I eventually got the center or the end of the mandala to tie properly. Okay, so here you see that I'm doing the diagonal line going the other direction. For right now, the end is still tied up, but it's already coming untied, and I'm going to end up having to retie it. Now I'm going to draw a diagonal line going the other direction and see if it works better this time. Since I have a few ties under my belt, I'm going to go ahead and attempt this end portion again and see if I can get it to hold a little better. I'm also going to take the sinew back up the shirt to the areas that I've already tied, and that will help keep it from coming untied. Now I'm going to draw on half of an oval. Do a few folds in that and tie it with sinew. If you'll notice, I'm getting as good of a grip on the shirt as I can and pulling really hard to tighten that sinew down. I'm going to tie one final diagonal line on the shirt. Okay, now that the mandala portion is tied, I'm going to open up the rest of the shirt and do a scrunch design in that area. I'm going to form a few folds and then I'm going to hold the folds in place with some rubber bands. Now that the shirt is tied, I want to go ahead and set it aside and allow it to dry out really well. I'll get better color saturation in the center portion of this mandala if it's totally dry when I start applying the dye. I'm going to ice dye this shirt, so I've placed it on top of a rack. And like I said, it's completely dry. It's been drying at this point for about a week or so. And I'm using some silicone cake molds to make myself an ice barrier. I'm wrapping the silicone cake molds around the tied shirt, and then I'm using some wooden clothespins that I'm attaching to the metal rack to hold them right up next to the shirt. That's going to help not only keep the ice on the shirt when I apply the ice, but it's also going to help to keep some of the dye from falling off into the container. I have a link down below this video in the description for where I purchased these silicone cake molds. I also list all of the dye colors that I use, and I have links to other items that I use when I tie-dye. For this shirt, I've chosen a couple of teal colors and a couple purples. I intended to pull the seafoam from Custom Colors, but instead I accidentally used the seafoam from Dharma. It's not a huge difference, but they are a little bit different. So the color swatch you're seeing there is the Custom Colors color swatch. I'm going to start by applying the hydrangea to the very end or the center portion of the mandala. The next color that I'm going to use is Mermaid's Dream from Dharma. And I'm applying that to that very first small section where I tied the diagonal line. The next color is True Purple from Grateful Dyes. I'm going to apply that to this larger area on the mandala. Then in the final section where I made the oval area on the shirt, I'm going to apply the seafoam from Dharma. Then I'm also going to apply the seafoam in the scrunched area of the shirt. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of additional soda ash over the top of the dye. Then I'm going to apply the ice. Then because the seafoam was so light and I'm concerned that that area is not going to have a lot of color, I'm going to add a little bit of the hydrangea over the top of the scrunched portion of the shirt. Now I'm going to set the shirt aside and allow this layer of ice to melt. So this is what the shirt looks like after the first layer of ice is melted. You can see quite a bit of the undissolved ice sitting on the scrunch portion of the shirt, so I'm going to add a second layer of ice and then allow it to melt. I allowed the shirt to process at least 24 hours after this second layer of ice melted. Then I took the shirt to my utility sink and I began rinsing it in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. After rinsing for a while, I went ahead and untied the shirt, rinsed a little while longer in cold water, and then warmed the water up to hot to rinse out the excess dye that didn't bond with the shirt. Then when the water was running almost clear, I put it into my washing machine along with a little bit of Dharma's textile detergent, and I washed it using a hot water cycle. And after the shirt was washed and dried, this is what it looks like. So what do you guys think? You would never know that I tried to use teal on this shirt because it looks basically purple. I know the seafoam was really light, and so that doesn't surprise me that that doesn't show up that much. And I guess I didn't use a whole lot of the Mermaid's Dream, so it's not really a surprise that didn't show up either. As far as the mandala went, it turned out okay. I had quite a bit of leaking right at the edge. But some of that is partially because I ice dyed it, so I didn't liquid dye it, and the dye didn't stay totally within the lines of where I put it. Then on the outside or the scrunch portion of the shirt, I'm glad that I went ahead and put the hydrangea over the top because that's the main color that I see in the shirt. I'm not exactly sure if I would have had a lot of color in this area if I would have just put the seafoam. I do like the colors though. I think that the blue that came out of the hydrangea in the scrunch portion of the shirt breaks it up a little bit so that it's not just solid purple. On the back of the shirt, you can see some of the effects of the seafoam. There's a little bit of green down in the lower portion, but honestly, it pretty much looks like the hydrangea took over the back as well. So overall, I like the shirt. The only thing I'm disappointed in is that more of the seafoam and the mermaid's dream didn't show up in this shirt. But that's kind of my fault. I should have used more of the mermaid's dream and not quite as much of the seafoam. The other thing is that the edge of the mandala is not a little bit more crisp. However, that's my fault too because I ice dyed it instead of liquid dyeing it. If I wanted a nice crisp edge, that's the way to go about getting that, is to liquid dye the mandala. But I really love the color splits, so I'm happy that I went ahead and ice dyed this one. But drop me a comment down below and let me know what you think. And I'd sure appreciate it if you would like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.